What's going on, college football fans? Welcome back to the First and Long College Football Show. I hope everybody's doing well as we get into week 5 of the college football action. Hard to believe we're already 5 weeks into this, but we have got a hell of a slate in week 5. Every week has been good so far this year. There hasn't been a bad week. It's just been action-packed every single week, more so than I can ever remember. It's been absolutely fantastic. This is our betting show, folks. This is our best bets against the spread. We do this every single week. We do it either Thursday night or Friday. We always try to get these best bets in right before those Friday games get started so you can get to the bookie or get to the window and maybe make some sense of what we're trying to say here on the betting show. And with that being said, y'all hit the like button. Y'all hit the subscribe button. Y'all leave a comment. Let us know in the comment section, what are your best bets of the week? You guys, there's some absolute sharks out there, and I'd love to hear what you've got to say about it. It's been a so-so start for me this year. The last couple of years, I've ended up pretty well over 500, especially last year, well over 500. And I'm right at the 500 mark this year. So struggling to keep my nose right above the waterline there. I'm now after week 4. I was 3-4 against the spread in week 4. Couple of bad beats on some big games, especially the Texas Tech Utah game. That one was a bad beat for sure. The rest of them I can somewhat live with, I think. But 3-4 in week 4 for me against the spread. Did not hit my obligatory money line pick, which was Nebraska at plus 105. So going into week 5, I'm now 15-15 on the season against the spread, and I am up 2.45 units on the money line picks. And just to kind of explain that again, we take obligatory money line picks every single week. We have to have at least one. It's got to be plus money. We can't just go pick any money line, juice number. We try to get you guys some value in that, and we've done really well on the money line this year. That's where the money. That's where the bread's been buttered this year, man, for sure. And not bad against the spread, but we need to hit a couple of solid weeks and push ourselves out in front of the pack at the 500 mark. I know you said that you went 3-3 in week 4 against the spread. That's 500 where I come from. How about on the money line? Did you hit anything there?
No, missed on the money line. I had SMU over TCU, and SMU made it a game. But I think that TCU just kind of proved themselves as a Big 12 contender this year, and might have a play on them this week. We'll have to wait and see. But I'm a believer. I'm a believer in Sonny Dykes and TCU and what they're doing. Josh Hoover over there is playing good ball.
Hey, don't steal my talking points, man.
I'll be watching. Yeah, sorry. Hey, don't share your notes with me. How about that?
No. For the record, we never share notes.
We actually
and so that's the funny part about it is we literally never share notes. We never know what each other are going to say on the show. We are excuse me, I'm choking on my drink over here. We never talk about it. It's not coordinated. It's not choreographed. These are our honest best bets of the week. So what does that put you at for the season, Mason? I don't know if you said it. Maybe I missed it.
You know what's kind of weird? I was just thinking about it as you were saying that. We haven't had a single fight all season. We're 4 weeks in. We have not had a single fight on a bet. And actually, on the bets that we lock up, we are sitting at 2-5. So, and it was the same way last year. We did the same thing where our locks were not good at all. So maybe there's something to that. Fade the locks. If we're both on the same page, probably fade that bet. It's probably pretty safe to say that would be pretty solid. But I'm sitting at +5 so far on the year. I'm at 16-11 total. Money line picks, I am at +5.05 units. So
damn, all right.
Pretty solid start to the year so far. Definitely a turnaround from last year, which I think I ended up like 11 under 500 by the end of it all. But we got to keep it rolling. We can't claim a victory yet. You know, we got to. It's it's only late in the first quarter right now, right? I mean, we're just about to kick off the second quarter here, and I'm not ready to start punting yet. We got to keep.
No, you got it wrong, Mason. Stop betting. You're ahead. Stop betting.
That's true. I've got 2 bets this week, so let's just throw them out throughout the entire show here, Mark.
All right, man. Let's go through some of the big games first, as we always do here on Between the Lines, our best bet segment every single week. Here we go. Let's talk about the big ones first, and I think we're going to have a fight this week. But let's talk about some of those 3:30 games, 7:30 games. There's 2 in each block there that are going on at the same time each game. It's going to be a split screen madness going on between 3:30 and about 11:30 or midnight for everybody. Let's go to Oregon at Penn State. Let's talk about that one first. Do you have a play on that one?
Oh, I ought to. I really ought to. I'm taking the under 53.5, which is counter to what I said in the preview, and I understand that, but we've had a couple more days to sit on it. And man, Jim Knowles is a freaking wizard on the defensive side of the football. I think he's the best defensive coordinator in the game. And you've got a whiteout at night, in Happy Valley. Oregon's coming into town. They haven't lost. James Franklin has never lost a whiteout game. I believe it's the stat. He's 6-0. Oregon, however, has never lost a Big Ten matchup. So, during the regular season or championship, outside of the playoffs, I guess, through one season, they're undefeated, 1 1/4. But nonetheless, I really feel like Oregon, Dante Moore in this position, he's going to be struggling. He's a good quarterback. I like what I've seen out of him. Last week was a little bit of a letdown. He scored 34 points. You can't really fault the guy too much, right? He's never played in an environment like Happy Valley. He's never played in a whiteout like this. He's never played in a 100,000 plus stadium night game. I think he's going to be shaking at the knees, and for that reason, I'm taking the total game under. I also like Oregon's defense, and of course, Dan Lanning used to be Georgia's defensive coordinator, did an excellent job there. I like the speed and the size and the physicality they have on that side of the football. They really fly around, and we haven't seen much. I know that Penn State hasn't had to show a ton. They're keeping the cards close to the vest, waiting on this game. And I think Cottle Mickey will have a game plan, so it scares me a little bit that Penn State's going to be able to put some points up. But I think under 52.5. To me, this game is played in the low 20s, Mark. I think it's a 20-24 type of game, something like that. And so I feel pretty comfortable with this. Anything under 49 is kind of where I'm at. That's where my head's at with this game. So it's almost like a principal play for me with these 2 great defenses. Give me the under 52.5.
Yeah, man. Well, again, you kind of took care of some of my talking points for me. But I'm going to go with Penn State on this one against the spread here. And I'm going to take. I think they're going to clear that 3.5. I think they can win this thing by a touchdown or more. I think it's time for Penn State here. Trends are meant to be rode out, and some are meant to be broken. And I think there's going to be several trends broken in this game. And everybody says Penn State hadn't won no big games, and I understand what everybody's saying. I completely get that, but they did win some playoff games last year. And in my book, those are big games. I'm sorry, but those are big games. Have they won the Big Ten championship? No, but I mean, Big Ten championships, a tough thing to win. You know what I'm saying? And we watched a team that didn't even win the Big Ten go and win a national championship last year. So and look, it wasn't very long ago that we saw this matchup, Oregon and Penn State. And look, we saw this Penn State offense really get into their bag. And I'm not saying that that's going to be the case today, because I agree with you that I think the under is the way to go on this one. I'm not saying that they're, going to put up, each team's putting up 600 yards this weekend. But with that being said, I really think Penn State has held a lot back getting ready for this game. Why wouldn't they? I mean, there is so much on the line for Penn State at this point. I just think that they come in focused, ready to go. The atmosphere is going to be absolutely ridiculous. And I think that rattles Dante Moore, who does not, you're right, he does not have the experience in these types of situations. And I think the trend of Oregon being undefeated in the Big Ten is coming to an end. And I think the trend or the talking point that Penn State can't win a Big Ten, a big Big Ten matchup, I think that comes to a close this weekend as well at home. So give me Penn State in this one to cover it. About 80% of the money's coming in on Oregon, Mason.
Yeah, that's scary.
And I'm not, there is absolutely no way that I'm getting on board with 80% of the betting public on anything. I just can't do it. I just can't do it. And I just can't believe that Vegas would be taking a bath. You know what I'm saying on that, to that extent. So anyway, with that being said, and we didn't exactly make a long story short there, but that's a big game this weekend. We both got a couple plays on it, under and Penn State -3.5. All right, Georgia and Bama. Do you have a play on that one?
Of course. I mean, it's our own team playing here, so I got a double dip. I should be 6-1 on betting on Georgia games so far this season. I failed our listeners, first of all, but I failed myself in my wallet by not taking Georgia in 1 week. I just kind of blanked on them when they were facing Austin P. I didn't bet that week, but nonetheless, I guess I should be 4-1 because they've only played 3 games. So I'm double dipping here again, Mark. I like the over in this game. I got it at 52.5. It has since ticked up a point to 53.5. So it's trending that direction. But at 52.5, I mean, you're talking, is this really going to be a 27-26 football game? I don't see it. I see this game going into the 30s for both teams. I think that this is more of a 34-30, 31-28, that style of game. Just looking at both of these offenses and what they've been able to put up so far. I mean, Ty Simpson looks like the most accurate quarterback in the country right now, and what he's done the past couple of weeks. And I don't care who you're playing. You have 5 incomplete passes in 2 games. You're being very efficient with the football. There is a chance here that Georgia's defensive line finally gets a sack and starts putting pressure on a quarterback, which the D-line has not gotten a sack all season so far. The only sacks have come from the linebackers and maybe the secondary. There's a chance that Georgia gets some pressure on here or in this game against Alabama, especially knowing that Alabama struggled to run the football. I think that's about the only way that the under ends up hitting in this game, and not the over. If Georgia's able to kind of stall that Alabama defense. But I like Georgia's ability to pass the ball downfield, and I like their ability to run the football. And Alabama is set up to stop the pass. Haven't been as great against the run so far this year. Georgia just put up over 200 yards against Tennessee, who's a pretty good run defense from my perspective. That they still have some dudes on that defensive line. Yep. So I think that Georgia is going to be multiple, have different ways that they can hit you. Gunnar Stockton has run the ball 10 times in each of the 3 games so far this season. He's the only quarterback under Kirby Smart to ever run the football 10 times in a game, and he's done it 3 times. He's the only quarterback to ever do that for Kirby Smart. So that tells you how much confidence he has in the quarterback and how much that really opens up the playbook. I think Georgia's going to score in this game. Give me the over here. And then for my second pick, because I'm thinking that there is a little bit of an advantage on Georgia's front 7 versus Alabama's offensive line, I'm going to take Georgia at -2.5. Georgia's the home game. It's the best home game that the Georgia fans have had since Tennessee came to town in, what was that, 2022. I think that this atmosphere is going to be absolutely electric. And if you're telling me that Georgia and Alabama are pretty comparable teams for the most part, give me the home team. Give me the home team in a night game, in a loud environment, to be able to etch out at least a field goal win. It could come late, it could actually be a blowout in some cases, or a 2-score win. In this case, I would consider that a blowout for a game like this. But if a team is going to blow another team out in this game, I think it's going to be Georgia blowing out Alabama. And so I'm leaning Georgia to score a pretty good bit of points. And I think that there are some advantages on the defense. So give me Georgia by at least a field goal.
All right. So I'll start with what we agree on. So because we got to fight on the over under here, because I'm going to go under. But first of all, 2.5. I'll take Georgia minus the 2.5 with you. I agree. Look, I think Georgia has an advantage running the football in this game. I think Georgia's going to be able to run the football on this defense, and I think that is really offensively for Georgia. That is just a padlock area of the game. Got to win the rush battle, and you've got to be efficient running the football. And I think Georgia can do that against this Alabama defense. With that being said, I think that's what opens up the pass, and I think that's what allows Georgia to occasionally hit, an explosive play with these awesome wide receivers that Georgia's got. Defensively, I think you nailed it. What it's going to boil down to is whether or not Georgia can get pressure on the quarterback. Whenever Alabama in years past has had like a running quarterback, like Jalen Hurts or Jalen Milroe, I have seen Georgia sit back and try to spy the quarterback and try that whole nonsense, and it don't work. I mean, I'm sorry, it usually just doesn't work because then the quarterback's sitting back there for so long. I mean, they're just taking a nap and waking up and then hitting their receiver. And even if you can't read a defense, if you've got 10 seconds to throw the ball, you're going to be able to find a receiver open, especially ones that are that talented. So I fully expect with the situation of Ty Simpson being more of that pocket passer, not very elusive, I think you're going to see Georgia try to cave the walls in on him a lot more often than what you did in years past whenever Alabama had a dual threat quarterback. So, but make no mistake about it, if Georgia does not apply the pressure to him, he will pick Georgia apart. There is no doubt about that in my mind. So if Georgia struggles to get pressure, I don't think then we're going to talk about hitting the over. That's what's going to happen. The over is going to be hit, just like you said. I think Georgia is going to do one of those things where they show up in the big moment, just like they did against Texas last year. We all talked about, Georgia hadn't been able to get after the quarterback. Then all of a sudden they go against this critically acclaimed offensive line from Texas and 7 sacks, I think it was in the first game. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what's about to happen here in this one. I think Georgia has got a little something in the bag for this big one. So I'm going to take the under 54.5. I think it's going to be slow going in the first half as far as the scoring. And I think that you will probably see an uptick in scoring in the second half. And then I think the under, especially with it moving up. Now, I got the under at 54.5. I found a 54.5 at ESPN Bet. So I guess there's a possibility we could split this. But I'm going to take the under 54.5. I think Georgia tries to run the football here. I think Alabama is going to attempt to run the football some just to have some type of balance on offense. I think there'll be some stagnant drives for Alabama, especially early on. And I think that can get me to the under 54.5. So there we go. We've got it covered all around, don't we?
100%. And I think, and this is a point I kind of alluded to in the preview, but maybe didn't do the greatest job of explaining in this game. But, Georgia against Tennessee was expecting Tennessee to run the football because that's what they do every year. So Georgia played a sort of contained defense up front. They only really rushed 4 for the most part, kept 5 to 6 in the box, and then played zone defense on the back end to stop the air raid attack and all that. It's going to be a completely different game plan against Alabama. They don't really have to worry about the run very much. They can still keep a light box, but they can send blitzers left and right. And I think that they're going to match up a little bit better just because of the tempo that Alabama plays at versus that extremely high tempo that Tennessee plays at on the back end of the defense. Should keep the legs fresh for the DBs.
Well, and I think that will probably prompt Alabama to try to hit a lot of screens and plays out to the right at the line of scrimmage. And I think the Georgia secondary, while they are pretty good at run stopping, and coming up and tackling in the open field. I think that's more of their strength right now versus the downfield threat. And some of those guys for Georgia, you just don't really trust them one-on-one downfield right this second. So it'll be interesting. Yeah, that's going to be an interesting dynamic in this one, no doubt about it. All right, let's get it moving. We talked about a couple of the big ones there. We need to move it along here. All right, let's see. What's another big game? Do you have anything on the other big games?
Let's see.
Because I don't.
We can go Auburn, Texas A&M.
You got to play on it?
I do. I'm going to take the over in this game at 52.5. I really liked what I saw out of Auburn last week. And I know that their defense played pretty well too. They were definitely a bright spot in this game. But these are two offenses that I think are kind of peaking for the most part. Relative to the program, and you've got two relatively new head coaches, and I've really been impressed with Marcel Reed and what he's been able to do with the weapons. Le'Veon Moss, I think, is one of the best running backs in the country, and they just put up 41 against Notre Dame. Notre Dame probably not the same defense that they had last year. I think definitely not the same defense, but 41 points against a competent defense is getting it done. And I do think that this is a team that's going to be able to put up at least 30 points in this football game. And then Auburn on the flip side, Cam Coleman finally has a breakout game in a big game, right? Last week, I saw him make some plays. I saw DBs hanging all over him because they were getting beat. And I think that's going to be he's going to be getting a lot of focus in this game from Texas A&M and this defense who gave up 40 points to Notre Dame last week and haven't given up less than 2 touchdowns in a single game all year. I don't think that they're going to stop now, but they're going to be shading towards Cam Coleman, which opens up the rest of this talented stable of wide receivers to be able to go get the football. Also like what I've seen out of Jackson Arnold and his progressions. Need to step up in the run game a little bit. So, get a little bit more balance, I think. And a lot of that has to do with the offensive line who just gave up 10 sacks. If they do that again, I think the under is probably going to hit because I don't know that Auburn's scoring a ton, giving up 10 sacks like that, although they did it last week. But yeah, give me the over in this game. I think that, you wouldn't be crazy to take Auburn and in the spread here, against the spread. Just a little bit worried that Texas A&M could win it by a touchdown late or something like that. But I think we're in for another really fun game, which both of these teams were in last week with, I guess Texas A&M was a couple weeks ago with Notre Dame. But, their last games each were both really, really exciting games.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think you're on the right side of that one. That'll be an interesting game for sure. I don't have a play on it, but certainly we'll be tuned in for it. And I'm trying to think of the other. There was it's Ole Miss and LSU. You got to play on that one. I see Ole Miss is still favored in that one. Do you have a play on it?
I am not going to touch that game. I don't know. I don't know where we're at. We're at Ole Miss. They're getting 1.5 in this game. Over under set at 57.5. I like LSU's defense. I don't know if they're going to be able to hold Chambliss, who is still kind of a question mark for me. I know he's played well so far, but not a huge sample size. Just too many unknowns for me. I'm gonna stay away from this game. I could see it going either way, to be honest with you, and it scares me a little bit. I just don't know enough about these two teams, and I feel like they're a little unproven.
I'm going to tell you what, buddy. I'm going to go ahead and take the over. I think it makes all the sense in the world. I get it that everybody – I think there's too much respect being put on LSU's defense's name right this second. I mean, we got to look at who they've played. The offenses they've played and have shut out. I mean, Florida, Clemson. I mean, these are not feats of modern miracles. You know what I'm saying? Like, these are offenses that were struggling. I mean, Clemson couldn't score on Troy in the first half. So I'm not I'm not like sold. And look, I know the defensive line is a little bit better for LSU for sure, and the linebacker room is really solid, I think, for LSU. But I'm not sold on the back end, man. I mean, it's a long process to fix the back end, and I'm just going to go ahead and pop that over 57.5 because I think this one's going to be maybe even 70 points scored in this one, but definitely I think 60 for sure total. So I'm going to take over 57.5 in that one and get in on that action. Now, who wins this game? I have no idea.
Right.
I really don't. I don't have an idea. I think we're going to see because look, LSU, it's literally a tale of two teams almost because the teams that they have played, I feel like are actually pretty good defensively. Like Florida is really good defensively. We know that. Clemson has got the bodies defensively. I think they're good at times and in situations, especially whenever you're one-dimensional like LSU was against them. So I think Ole Miss is not what they were on the defensive line last year. They're not what they just don't have the playmakers on the defense like they did. So I think Ole Miss is still potent on offense. I think they always will be while Lane Kiffin's there. But I think that defense is a shell of what it was last year. So I'm not so much believing in that defense to be able to hold LSU down. LSU's got a hell of a wide receiver room. I think it's just a breakout waiting to happen. Maybe this is the game they get it going. I hear all the Garrett Nussmeier injury stuff, and I don't believe it. I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't even really believe it.
Yeah.
And beyond that, who the hell isn't nicked up in week 5? I mean, everybody's got ailments at week 5. So it's obviously not bad enough for him to sit on the bench. So I don't really want to talk about it. But with that being said, I think LSU's offense shows up here.
Yeah, I think that going with what you're saying with the with LSU and their defense, I think that the Ole Miss team total over would be a really good play. I can't find a number on it right now, but I think that would be a really solid play. With LSU, I'm not necessarily buying into the Nussmeier is injured hype or whatever you want to call it, but I do know that their offense has struggled a pretty good bit, and so that kind of scares me away from the total over in this game. But I would like an Ole Miss team total over if I can find a prop bet. I'll definitely.
I bet it's probably like 29.5, and I think that'd be a good number to get right around that 30 mark. Maybe they don't want to give you, I don't know, probably 29.5, 28.5. I'm sure those are probably the numbers there. All right, let's just kind of spray the board now. I've got a game that everybody's been talking about, Florida State at Virginia. Is that one tonight? I think it might be tonight.
Yep.
Okay, so Friday game here. I've heard a whole bunch of hubbubaloo about Virginia and how this is an upset spot, and Florida State's going to be looking ahead because they've got Miami. And this isn't exactly a sleeper game because it's not like Florida State. It's not a sandwich game, I guess you'd say, because it's not like Florida State played some juggernaut last week and then they got Miami after this, and therefore this game sandwiched in there. I don't know. I think Florida State has got their attention on Virginia right this second, and I just don't see. I don't see it. I think Florida State wins this thing by at least a touchdown. Give me the Seminoles minus 6.5. Way too much of the public bet coming in on Virginia at this point.
Yeah, I definitely thought about taking that pick. I mean, I understand a little bit. Chandler Morris is just kind of going off right now.
Yeah.
You know, he absolutely is. I think that this Florida State defense is really good. The public hasn't caught up yet on just how complete this team is. I'm with you. I do think that Florida State's going to be able to win this by at least a touchdown. I'm not going to take a bet on it, though. I actually don't have a bet on one of the Friday games. I thought I had one sitting around somewhere.
Yeah. What's the other Friday game?
TCU and Arizona State.
Oh, well, I have a bet on that one then. Let me get that out real quick since we're on the topic of Friday. Look, you talked about TCU earlier, and nobody's playing quarterback any better than Hoover right now. They got a big-time playmaker wide receiver. They look like the TCU team that worked their way into the national championship a few years ago. That's what they look like right now to me. It looks like almost the same identity and everything. Run the ball, hit a big shot play. I like the prospect of TCU, and not to mention Kenny Dillingham was not really pleased with his team last week, and I think he was accurate in the post-game press conference when he said that we can't win like this. And I think he's right. I just think this Arizona State team just lost a lot, man. I mean, it to replace a guy like Cam Scatterbo from last year. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, that's hard to do. You don't replace a guy like that. That's a tough task. So I'm taking TCU. I'm a believer, man. I watched them a couple of weeks ago. I guess the first time I watched them was against North Carolina, and they just absolutely undressed the Fighting Bill Belichick, which doesn't mean anything, but that's when they caught my attention with some of the plays that they were making and how easy they made it look. I like TCU, and I think Arizona State at this point should be faded. So give me TCU. They're the dog in this one on the road, +2.5. I'm going to take that +2.5.
I like it. I like it a lot. I think it's a really solid play here. And, I mean, plus you can get a +3 out there. Anyways, I think that's going to be a really good game. Can't wait to watch it tonight. Thank you, Big Blue Breakdown, for the comment. What's up, guys? Thoughts on Kentucky versus South Carolina? Interestingly enough, I've got a play on this game. I'm taking South Carolina -5.5 over Kentucky. I know that may not be what you want to hear there, Big Blue. But I think people are sleeping on South Carolina after a disappointing start to the season. I saw some signs of life last week. Lenore Sellers comes back, kind of battles through his little nagging injury, has a pretty decent game. And I think that the defense kind of helped and stepped up there in some key spots as well. I like South Carolina in this game. I think that they're probably not a playoff team, but just based on what they've put on film so far this year. But I think that they're almost talented enough to be a playoff team. And while Kentucky is improved from where they were last year, I think there's no doubt about that. It just feels to me like South Carolina is a little bit further in the right direction with their program right now than where Kentucky's at. And hate to say that, I think that Kentucky is a good program and a good school, but I kind of want to see Mark Stoops probably get the can this year. So I'm kind of hoping that they tank it a little bit there as well. And we see a fresh face in the program. I think that that's what that program needs.
I don't have a play on that game, but I would take Kentucky plus the points. I think, I would consider it in some kind of alternate universe. I've got enough plays on my sheet right now, and I'll be honest with you, Big Blue, I haven't watched enough Kentucky yet to be putting a whole lot. But look, what we know about Kentucky typically is they're a physical football team. They typically got pretty good lines of scrimmage, especially on the defensive line. And look, South Carolina has struggled on the offensive line this year. I know that to be true. They have not looked good on the offensive line. So is there a chance that Kentucky is able to, play spoiler in this one, or at least, keep it within like a field goal? I think that's extremely possible. Seems like Vegas is baiting everybody into trying to take South Carolina, but also maybe it's just that's where the public betting perception is on South Carolina at this point. But unfortunately for South Carolina, I think they're in for a bad season. And if somehow Kentucky pulled this one off, man, you might see Beamer go take off to Virginia Tech or something, bro.
Yeah, I mean, Kentucky, when I was looking at this game, Kentucky hung in there with Ole Miss. I think Kentucky got a late score and a cover there at the very end of that football game. But, you only put up 24 against Toledo in week 1. I get it. It's week 1. You're still trying to figure out your new offense, new team, just in general, brand new quarterback. Then you score 48 against Eastern Michigan, but you give up 23. I'm just not liking what I'm seeing there. And I get it. I'm stat grabbing here. The only Only Kentucky game I've really seen is the Ole Miss game. But we'll be watching them against South Carolina. This is also a night game in Columbia. It's going to be a really Rockets environment. And for that reason, I'm taking the Gamecocks in this one to cover.
Yeah, it'll be good to get some eyes on the Wildcats this weekend. We'll definitely do that. I haven't nobody has watched Kentucky other than the Ole Miss game. I mean, let's just be real. Other than Kentucky fans, obviously. Hey, Big Blue, thanks for watching. I appreciate you tuning in. And come hang out with us on the reaction show, and we'll talk about the game. All right. And that'll be Saturday night, by the way, folks. Saturday night, about 11:30, we usually get on and do that reaction show. And we will do that again this weekend. All right. How many more picks you got, Big Dog?
I've got 4 more.
Okay. I got 3 more here. All right. I'm going to go. Let's fire these off because these are lower level games, but I love these bets. These are the bets that saved my ass last week, actually. So these types of bets. So let's run through it. Syracuse is going to be hosting Duke. We started off this season actually kind of impressed with Duke and what they've been able to do, obviously coming off of a really good season last year. I think this is a good spot for the Duke Blue Devils as they go on the road to Syracuse, who just lost their quarterback, just won an extremely emotional game. I think this is a big-time letdown spot for the Syracuse Orange. And I think this is a great spot for Duke to come in here and win this thing by a touchdown. So give me Duke minus 4.5 here.
I like it. I'm going to go with another semi-big game. I think if you're a Notre Dame fan, you're very nervous about this game.
It's an interesting matchup for sure.
Yeah, going to Fayetteville, Arkansas. I don't know who's going to win it. I think it's going to be really, really close. Actually thought about taking Arkansas on the money line here, just from a principal play. I mean, they're close enough on paper, and it's a home game in the SEC. But it's a noon home game, which I don't exactly love, So I'm going to steer away from that. I'm going to take the total game over 63.5, which is a lot of points. But when you look at what Notre Dame gave up last week, against Texas A&M, 41 points they gave up against Texas A&M. Hasn't looked like the same defense all season long. I think Arkansas's offense is legit. Really like what Petrino's been able to do there with Taylon Green, and they've got some weapons on the outside too. Pretty decent running game. I really think that this offense is looking very nice defensively for Arkansas. They are struggling like they always do. Arkansas just under Sam Pittman has not had a decent defense even. So really like what I've seen out of Notre Dame and CJ Carr. They've had a propensity to score. And so I know 63.5 is a lot of points, and typically I would stay away from that. But I feel like they can get it done. I feel like this is going to be a little bit of a shootout here, and we're going to have ourselves a really fun game to watch at noon tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that one's going to be pretty high scoring. You noted the Notre Dame drop off on defense this year. It's been pretty stark difference between last year and this one. All right, cool. Indiana at Iowa. Indiana minus 8.5. Indiana is in Death Star mode right now. I know Iowa's a tough place to go on the road and play, but I do not believe in this Iowa offense. I don't. I know they have little blips on the radar here lately where it's like, oh, there we go. But it's always when they played no one. Iowa State held this Iowa team well within check, and I believe that Indiana can certainly do that. And we all know what's about to go down. If Cignetti can run up the score, he's going to do it. Google it. Indiana minus 8.5 at Iowa.
This is why we got to do these betting shows in the morning, Mark. This was at 7.5 earlier today.
Yeah.
Because I was on it too. I'm going to change my number here for the sake of the show to 8.5. But I'm going to lock this one up with you. I for a lot of the same reasons. I mean, there is no let up with Cignetti and the offense with Indiana. They didn't last year. They haven't so far this year. I think that Fernando Mendoza, to me, I mean, it's funny because I said it on Saturday during our reaction show that you should probably put some money on Fernando Mendoza to win the Heisman. Well, lo and behold, he's the Heisman favorite right now. I just saw a couple of days ago he just passed Mateer for the best odds to win the Heisman. I think that Iowa is one of those games where if you're Indiana, you've got it's kind of a showcase game for this offense because we know Iowa has a good defense. They always have. So if Mendoza can go out and hang 30 plus on this Iowa defense, I think that that's a step in the right direction for a Heisman campaign and just in general for the Indiana program as they continue to have to prove themselves week in and week out because we just don't believe it as college football fans that Indiana could be a good program, I guess. But I think they're pretty dang good, and I think they're pretty good on defense too. So I really like them in this matchup. Iowa still doesn't have an offense. I know they're better than they've been, in 2024 and before. Last year they were okay, but they're not good. They're not good offensively still.
No, I don't think so either. All right, my last bet against the spread, I've got the Washington Huskies hosting the Ohio State Buckeyes. I've got it at plus 10.5. I think this is going to be a really tough test for the Ohio State Buckeyes in this one, specifically their offense. I believe in the Ohio State defense, certainly, and I think this one will be low scoring because I believe that they're going to show up to play. But this Jetfish team is, I'm a believer in Jetfish. For him to do what he did at Arizona and honestly left Arizona in a good place. They're trending in the right direction still from the spinoff from his tenure there. And I feel like they've done a good job replacing him too, but I digress. Washington lost 21 out of 22 starters from their national championship runner-up season. So last year they took a huge step back, went into the Big Ten, took their lumps, and nobody's talking about the Huskies yet, but I think Washington is one of those surprise teams of the Big Ten this season, and I think this is going to be a pretty serious test for OSU going on the road here all the way across the country. Give me the Huskies plus 9.5.
Okay, so you had it at 9.5. I've got a 10 out there if you want that.
Okay, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, plus 10 at minus 117. That's pretty solid right there. So I think that you should definitely take that. I'm actually going to fight you on this one though, Mark. I am a believer in Julian Sayin right now. I think that he is playing really good football. Looks very accurate. I know week one was a little bit tough, but Ryan Day came out and said after the game in week one, we didn't really feel like we had to push it. We could have opened it up a little bit for Julian Sayin. We felt comfortable with him, but Texas wasn't scoring, and so we just wanted to play conservative football, yada, yada, yada. Since then, I think he's looked great, and obviously he's got the pass catching weapons to do it. I understand it's in Washington, but that's going to be a 12:30 kickoff local time. It's not like like a 12 o'clock kickoff can sometimes take a fan base out of a game because they don't really have time to get very well hydrated. We know that makes a difference in a football game. Couple that with the defense for Ohio State and how elite that they've been for the past few years. I think that trend is going to continue. They've so far passed the test. I like Ohio State here. I've got them at minus 8.5. So there's a chance they win by 9, and we both come out winners here. We can middle this thing, and I would not be mad about it. But yeah, give me the Buckeyes in that one. And then for my last pick, I'm going to stay in the SEC here, looking at Tennessee minus 7.5 over Mississippi State. I mean, that just does not seem like enough points, does it, Mark? I'm double checking here. Okay, we can still get it at a 7.5. I think that this offense is just too good for Tennessee. I know it's going to be in Starkville over there. Bow season is open now, so some of those fans are going to be out of they're not going to be in the stands, right? The fans are going to be out in the blinds and hunting and whatnot.
Could you imagine an NFL team, somebody doing a breakdown on an NFL team and saying that? I mean, it just would never.
This is only in college football.
Only in college football would bow season for whitetail, change the outcome of possibly a college football game.
Yeah, but I think Tennessee is going to be able to hang whatever number they want here for the most part. The
Okay.
only way I feel like this doesn't hit and Tennessee still wins is if Joey Aguilar finally, the tables turn and those YOLO balls start going the other way and he starts throwing a ton of picks, which is very possible. But I think, and I'm really not sure why this opened at -10 and it's tracked down 2.5 points going towards Mississippi State. I don't really see it. If they prove me wrong here, I might be looking at Mississippi State a little bit closer. I know they won against Arizona State earlier in the year, but I don't think Arizona State's what we thought they were going into the season either.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. But with that being said, that'll lead us into our money line picks here. And I'm going to just give you both of mine because I got to get out of here. We got my wife's birthday dinner over at the Japanese place tonight. So, yum, yum, yum. Mississippi State plus 230 on the money line. I'm going to throw that one down there.
Okay.
I think I'm taking a flyer on the fact that I think Mississippi State might be in for a kind of a special season. I think Jeff Levy's got something going on offensively for them, and I don't believe in the secondary of Tennessee. I think Mississippi State's going to be able to stretch the field, and maybe they can get them off kilter. Maybe the cowbells get to those volunteers. We'll see. We'll see. But at plus 230, I think there's a lot of value there, obviously. And with the line being what it is, I feel like Vegas knows something's up. TCU plus 130. We already talked about that game. I took TCU plus 2.5 against the spread. I'm going to take them plus 130 on the money line against Arizona State and watch that baby cash because it's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm locking up with you the TCU win. This is a team, like I said at the beginning of the show, I bet against them last week in the money line, and they came out and won anyways. I'm not going to make the same mistake twice. Give me TCU to win this game outright. And then I've also got Auburn at plus 200 over Texas A&M. Auburn's pissed off. They lost a game that they shouldn't have last week. They lost a game due to the refs, in my opinion. And I think that the football gods will bless them with a win on the road in College Station this week. It's going to be a hell of a game, but I like the Tigers in that one. I think that they get it done.
There you have it, folks. All our picks are in the books for week 5. We're going to be on the First and Long College Football Show Network at 11:30 Saturday night. We'll be talking about probably watching the end of a couple of these games together, I guess. So I would love for you guys to come and join us. Come and hang out with us. Let us know in the comment section. Tell us how wrong we were. We'll tell you how right you were. We'll make you feel real good. And we'll probably be drinking some beer and having a good time. So that's going to be great. I hope everybody has a great week 5 of college football. We out of here. Thank y'all so much for watching. Appreciate it. Hit that like button on the way out. Y'all have a great night.
Thanks. Later.